Well, good morning, everybody. Thursday, May 14th, 2020. And we, folks, I believe, are wrapping up our Psalm 23 devotional. Some of you may be in celebration, some of you may be in mourning. Nevertheless, we will conclude our study and see what else Jesus is whispering. So, if you would, join me in Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Well, we're looking at a specific thing. Yesterday we looked at this idea of you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You fatten my head with oil, my cup runs over. And then we looked at the first part of this verse, of verse 6. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And we talked about this idea that the Lord has set up and the angelic host. He's set up this personification of goodness and mercy, loving kindness, and they will, in the word there, they will pursue you all of the days of your life. And this idea that you are being pursued by God's goodness and by his mercy. And today I would love to, I just think there's no better conclusion than this last clause, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I will abide in the house of the Lord forever. And the word there, forever, is literally, it's all of my days. It's all of the days of my life. And this language here is he's not necessarily talking about eternity as in some future reality. That wasn't necessarily a fleshed out concept yet. And so what we discover here is for David, this is a practical in the life that I am living on this earth, which I think is profound because so often what we can do is we can begin to bank up this reality of one day in the future. And what happens is we actually, and we don't mean to, but we forfeit the authority and we forfeit the invitation that the Lord has offered to impact the here and the now. And I'm not just talking about like this, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. I'm not just talking about this place where we have serene peace and we live the rest of our lives by a cabin by a lake. That's not necessarily the mind frame of David as he writes this. And this is what we have to understand is that the Lord isn't looking to keep us out of situations that are painful or harmful or anything else. That's actually not God's intent. God's intent is to incarnate himself in the midst of them, right? Because the reality of it is there is an assignment on the believer's life. You carry an assignment from the Lord. And I would actually offer all of your purpose and meaning and destiny and hope and joy and peace, all of the fruit of the Spirit is attached to you living into the fullness of who he's created you to be. And the fullness of who he created you to be isn't to get to some far off assignment on your life where now we're really living. No, you're living right now in the midst of the assignment and the DNA that God has crafted and cultivated within you. And so as we unpackage this, David seems to understand that come what may, I don't care what the future holds. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what enemies come up against me. I don't care what situations happen. There is nothing, and Paul says it in Romans 8, there is nothing that can separate me from the love of God in my life. And so I don't think there's a more fitting way to understand that this whole narrative, this whole psalm is actually about a framework of understanding that the Lord is shepherding me into a place where all of the, excuse the language, all the dumb parts of my heart that don't know who he is, and for 1,000 reasons, that those get uncovered in his presence. And what I find is that he isn't surprised by him. He's not disappointed in him. He's not frustrated with him. He has actually prepared a table. Prepared means he has done it beforehand. He has been making preparations for those parts of your heart to sit at the table with him and to realize that he has seen them this whole time. And he's actually put your enemies that have kept the parts of your heart dumb. He's invited them to the table. Why? Because he wants to tell you who you are and fatten your understanding with who he is. And the only byproduct, the only fruit of that is that we go, I had no idea how much my cup runs over. And then we find ourselves in a place when we've learned and we're learning how to cultivate an overflowing cup, because it's always overflowing. He's always filling us up because remember, we have no lack. What we discover is that we go, surely I'm discovering that your goodness and your mercy, Lord, has pursued me all the days of my life. And that I won't one day, but I am now dwelling in the house of the Lord forever. And so I invite you in this morning. I challenge you. I encourage you. Take heart that even in this season with the unknown and the unpredictability and the chaos and the confusion that can reign, I want to encourage you that the Lord has not stopped. He has not stopped pursuing you and wooing your heart to discover him in new ways. And if you find yourself in anxiety, fear, hear me, low levels of depression, painful situations, that is not an indication that you're doing it wrong. It's an indication that the Lord is inviting you to the table, because he wants to sit those enemies down and he wants to fatten your understanding so that the one place of your identity that you recognize over and over again is that nothing can separate you from his love. He is using and redeeming every circumstance. And so we bless you to discover him in new ways today. We bless you in the name of Jesus to hear his voice and to respond. We bless you in the name of King Jesus to get everything he died for. We love you. We thank you. We'll talk to you soon.